Hi everyone, welcome back. Fig trees are one of our favorite fruiting trees to grow in our growing dome greenhouses for a number of reasons. Number one, they're delicious. Number two, they're deciduous. Number three, they thrive in the Mediterranean climate that the growing dome provides. They're also very forgiving and easy to grow. And you only need one tree to produce fruit. What's your favorite fruiting tree to grow? Leave us a comment down below, and before we get too figgy with it, make sure that you subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and like this video. The first step in growing figs is deciding what type of fig you like. Here on our property, we have three main types. We have the Cadota, the Black Mission, and the Chicago Hardy. Figs come in a few different colors, ranging from vibrant green to deep purple, almost black, and they do vary slightly in flavor and sweetness. You may have heard that figs need a wasp in order to pollinate, and that every fig actually has a dead wasp inside of it. And while that is true for a certain subset of figs called caducous figs, it's not true for most common commercial varieties, so don't be afraid. Most of the varieties that you'll be able to purchase actually are self-pollinating, meaning that you only need one tree to produce fruit. The next thing that you'll want to consider is the amount of space that you have to work with. If your greenhouse is less than 10 feet tall, you may want to consider a dwarf variety, which do tend to produce smaller fruit. This greenhouse is a 26-foot growing dome, and we have over 10 feet of vertical space to work with, meaning that we can grow pretty much any variety that we'd like. Our growing domes are circular, which is a little bit different than a traditional greenhouse, meaning that we have a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to where we place our trees. We prefer to place them in a central location that favors the southwest side of the dome, so that we maximize the amount of shade that the tree produces in the summertime, and in the winter they lose their leaves, so we're not impacting the amount of solar gain that the greenhouse gets. Figs do have very invasive root systems, so that's something else you'll want to think about when you're looking at placement. Either keep your fig in a pot if you're growing it in a greenhouse, or create some type of an enclosure within your raised garden bed, that way your fig roots don't take over your entire space. If you are going to be transplanting your fig, it is best to do so in the springtime when the tree is still dormant. It's also very important to keep up with consistent watering during that springtime. And we want to make sure that in the summer, when our tree is bearing fruit, we cut back on that water a little bit so that the tree condenses the sugars into the fruit itself. Except if your tree is very young. If your tree is young, like the one we have here, which is only a couple of years old, the root system isn't fully established yet, so we want to make sure that we keep the soils nice and moist all year long. You can also see that we have enclosed this tree with this metal enclosure within this raised garden bed, so that once those roots do get established, they don't take over the entire space. In the winter, once all the leaves have fallen off of the trees, we can cut back on watering pretty significantly, but remember that moisture levels in soil ensure a healthy and happy soil, and we want to keep those soils alive. So use a hygrometer or the finger test to keep those levels in check. We have found that figs rarely need any type of fertilization, but if the tree does, it will let you know. You may notice yellowing leaves in the spring and summer, decreased fruit production, or issues with the ripening process. A simple soil test for NPK levels will typically help you get to the root of the issue, and a little Google search will help you come up with some possible solutions. We like to treat the soil around our figs the same way we treat all of our other raised garden beds, meaning that in the springtime we'll go ahead and top dress with compost and apply a well-rounded NPK fertilizer to give them a good boost when everything is coming back alive after the dormant winter time. It is possible to over-fertilize a fig, so do make sure that you do a soil test before applying any specific targeted amendments. That way you can ensure the health of your tree in the long term. By pruning the tree, we are encouraging new growth, and this will result in sweeter figs. The main crop of the figs grow on the new growth of the tree for that year. As you can see, we have lots of new growth on this tree because we did a very heavy prune last year. Figs can grow on the old growth of the tree or last year's growth, and those types of figs are called breba, and they are larger in size, but typically less sweet in flavor. We're also trying to improve the air circulation within the tree to help avoid fungal infestations or pest issues, and we also want to improve the light penetration for all of the plants that we have growing below the tree. You'll know it's time to harvest a fig when it is soft to the touch. You'll also likely notice a slight color change. For example, the Cadota figs will go from a true green to more of a yellowish hue, and the Black Mission and the Chicago Hardy will go from that vibrant green to a deep dark purple color. The other telltale sign that your figs are ready to harvest is when they start to secrete sap from the open end. You'll also want to make sure that you remove any saplings that emerge from the base of the tree, as they can help suck some of the energy away from the fruit production. It is a good idea to wear gloves during the pruning process because if you get any fig sap on your skin, it can be quite irritating, and eye protection is also a good idea. We are going to be pruning our fig tree today, and as you can see, it has lost the majority of its leaves. The remaining fruit that's left on the tree is likely not going to ripen because we are in the beginning of winter and temperatures are simply too cool and the daylight hours are not long enough to be conducive to the ripening process. It is typically best to wait until the tree has gone dormant, meaning that it's lost all of its leaves and the sap has condensed back into the root structure before pruning to minimize sap loss. But established fig trees are very hardy and fairly forgiving, so we are going to go ahead and get started with pruning this today. It is best to only prune 1/3 of the tree at a time to help prevent stress, and that's a general rule for larger established trees like this one, but it is something that you'll want to adhere to strictly for smaller trees, again, so that we don't cause unnecessary stress to the tree. We are going to be removing any branches that are overlapping, like we see here, rubbing against each other, pressing up against the polycarbonate or the covering of our greenhouse, or growing straight up and down like we have here. We want to eliminate these vertical branches because we want to encourage the tree to grow horizontally and create a nice large canopy versus just growing straight up. And we want to eliminate overlapping or rubbing branches to help create that airflow within the tree. When we are deciding where we're going to cut our branches, we are going to locate the nodes of the branches themselves, and we're going to cut 1 inch above the node with our nice sharp, clean shears. If we are cutting all the way back to a main branch or the main trunk of the tree, we're going to cut pretty much all the way back, but we do want to leave about a 1 inch collar. That way the tree will produce more shoots out of there. As you can see, our fig got a little bit of a haircut. We have left a lot of the smaller branches, and we'll go ahead and do a second prune once the tree has dropped all of its leaves. We'll also be using these smaller branches to propagate new figs, so that's something that's really exciting about fig trees is that you can make more of them. With figs, it's important that you make sure that they have plenty of room to grow because with proper care, your fig will last for decades or more. Be armed and ready with some sharp shears and ready to prune it up, because figs are one of those things that get sweeter with time. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.